If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh Elahi, the original Property Rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Property Rebel with your host Arsh Elahi. And in today's session, we're actually talking about a topic that has been going around for a number of years. So we're going to be talking about HMO valuations, bricks and mortar versus commercial valuations. So if you don't know anything about this topic, don't worry, because it's a difficult topic to get your head around. And I'm going to try and make sure that I explain it in a way so that you've got it from the very start, and so that by the end of this session, you'll know everything that there is to know about commercial valuations. I want to say a big thank you to all those that have subscribed to the channel and to the podcast, and hopefully you're enjoying it and you're taking lots of knowledge away from it. If you like it, please share it with your friends. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, over the last few episodes we've been talking about HMOs. I've also mentioned in there about commercial valuations, and some of you have actually reached out and said, Arsh, what is a commercial valuation, and how can I check to see if my property would get a commercial valuation in order for me to pull some of my money back out. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. First of all, it's important to say that HMO valuations can be a bit complicated, and what we've done is that I'm trying to put this together to help HMO property developers and investors through the process from start to finish, which will hopefully allow you to make a decision. So there's two different types of valuations when you're looking at a HMO, and just to start from the beginning, a HMO is house of multiple of occupation. So the first type of valuation is a bricks and mortar valuation. Now, bricks and mortar or building valuations are the most common type of HMO valuations, and what this is pretty much is a property. And if we were to keep it in very simple terms, let's just imagine that you've got a 3-bed, 2-reception room, mid-terrace house, and there are certain things that you need to take into consideration, like Article 4, and we'll come on to that shortly. But provided that you're not in an Article 4 area, you could very easily turn that into a 4-bed HMO, so using the 3 bedrooms upstairs as bedrooms, and potentially using one of the living rooms downstairs as another bedroom, giving you now 4 lettable rooms. And in order to convert that, it's quite easy to do. You've got to put interlinked smoke detection system. I always suggest that you follow HMO guidelines, even if it is not a licensable HMO. And just to clarify, anything up to a 5-bed HMO does not require a license. Anything above a 5-bed does require a license. So we can talk about license and unlicensed in another episode if you like. If you do want that, please reach out and say, yeah, please tell me what you want me to talk about, and I'll very happily cover the topic. So let's go back to our example. 3 bedrooms, 2 reception rooms. Now we've turned that into a 4-bed HMO where we've still got 1 communal lounge, we've still got the kitchen, we've still got the bathroom. Now, technically speaking, you've got a HMO, and just imagine that on that street, a 3-bed mid-terrace house is worth circa £100,000. I'm going to get my calculator out, so if you hear some tapping away, what it is me just trying to make sure that I've got the figures right. So based on the factor that, let's just say that in Wolverhampton, average room fetches around £300 a month. So 300 times that by 4, it gives you around £1,200 a month gross. Times that by 12 gives you around £14,400 per annum for a 4-bed HMO. Hopefully you're still all with me. Now, based on the fact that if you were to rent it out as a single let, a 3-bed would be circa around, let's just say £600 a month. So 600 times that by 12, it gets you around 7,200. So technically speaking, it's 100% uplift on the rent. 7,200, 14,400. Do you see where we're going with this? Okay, so naturally, turning a property into a HMO generates far more cash flow. However, there are things that you need to take into consideration, especially when you're looking to turn this property into a HMO. First thing is the size of the bedrooms and the square footage of the property. So how big are the rooms? Now, there's certain things that you will have to do that I can't comment on this podcast, such as your location. What is your local authority asking of you before you turn this property into a HMO? First thing I would say is that, is the property in an Article 4 area? Now, Article 4 is where the local authority brought in Article 4 directive, not everywhere, but in certain locations across the UK, literally to restrict the amount of HMOs propping up because let's face it, every investor is now starting to see the cash flow that it generates and how attractive they are as an investment, especially when you can kind of generate commercial valuations to get your money back out. And I'll be showing you how to do this shortly. So the council said, well, hang on, we've got to stop this. And what they did, they brought in Article 4 directive in certain parts. And I'll use Wolverhampton as an example. Now, if you go into the HMO register for Wolverhampton, you'll see my name pretty much littered all over the register because we've got lots of HMOs around Wolverhampton. And what I was doing, taking a standard house, turning it into a 4/5, maybe a 6-bed HMO, depending on the size of the property. And anything over a 6-bed HMO, it's worth noting that you need to get planning permission for. So I'd only ever run it up to a 6-bed initially. And then if I thought we had space, I'd then go for planning permission for the additional rooms if required. So I'd run it up to a 6-bed HMO, and I could do that without planning prior to, I think it's September 2018. It might have been 2017 or 2018. So I'd take a house, convert it to HMO, no planning required, and it was very simple to do. Providing that the room sizes were big enough, providing that there's sufficient facilities, and we can talk about tenant ratio to facilities ratio. So providing that there's communal lounges, it's 1 bathroom per 5 tenants and 1 kitchen per 5 tenants. If you start to cut out the living room and there is no communal lounge, it then drops down to 1 bathroom per 3 tenants and 1 kitchen per 3 tenants. So you have to take that into consideration. And if there is no communal lounge, the bedrooms need to be larger. So in Wolverhampton, the standard room size is 6.5 square metre if there is communal facilities. If there are no communal facilities, it then goes up to 10 square metres. So these are the things that you need to know. So tip number 1, go to your local authority website and see if they've got something called a HMO standards guide or HMO amenity standards guide. So these are they should have pretty much a booklet or pamphlet or something that they've created so that you can look at to see if you're creating a HMO, what do you need to adhere to. If they don't have a guide, my second tip is that you pick up the phone to the HMO officer and say, guys, okay, I'm looking to create a HMO. Want to make sure that I've done it on the right footing from the outset. What can you tell me that I need to do so that I don't come into problems later on? So there's a couple of tips for you if you're setting up a HMO. And this ultimately will also help you with your commercial valuation down the line. Now, for the example, I'm going to use 2 examples. I'm going to use Wolverhampton because I'm going to use Wolverhampton prior to Article 4, Wolverhampton post Article 4. And the reason why I say that is that prior to Article 4, I could take a house, convert it into HMO up to 6-bed, and I could run it as a 6-bed HMO, generating a very healthy cash flow. Now, when I buy a property, generally speaking, I look to buy a property either with cash or potentially a bridge finance. The reason why I don't go for traditional lending, so with like a Shawbrook or a Lloyds or someone from the outset, is because my intention is to refinance that property within 6 to 12 months. Now, my problem is that if I go with a traditional lender like Shawbrook, Aldermore, Keystone, Lloyds, HBOS, Halifax, you name it, any of those mainstream lenders, chances are that they're going to try and tie me in for a period of time. So it could be a 2-year fixed, 3-year fixed, 5-year fixed, which means that within that 2 to 3 to 5 years, if I take that product on, if I try and refinance to another lender or try and do something within that period, I'm going to get hit with redemption penalties. Now, that can be quite hefty. So in year 1, it could be quite a large percentage. It goes on pretty much like a ratchet scheme. So year 1, it's X amount, year 2, X amount, year 3, X amount. So I'm hoping that you get the drift. However, if I buy it with cash, I don't have those restrictions. So I don't have penalties. Yes, it's a little bit more capital intensive from the outset. However, I know that my end goal is within a very short space of time, so between 6 and 12 months. So when I set up a HMO, I set my HMOs up slightly different. I'm going to talk to you about the way that I set them up shortly. When I set up the HMO, within month 5, I start to put an application in for refinance, and I'm looking to get it refinanced on its commercial valuation. Now, what is a commercial valuation? Pretty much this is where a valuation method is offered by certain lenders who offer commercial or yield-based HMO valuation subject to certain criteria. It's not an exact science. It's worth saying that. It's not an exact science to figure it out, but it's not black magic either. Now, the reason why I like a commercial valuation, very simply, is because typically a commercial valuation will be higher than a bricks and mortar valuation. So go back to my example. If I bought it for £100,000 on a bricks and mortar valuation, generally a surveyor will try and think, well, if you bought it for £100,000, if I'm working for the lender and if the surveyor's working for the lender, he comes out and thinks, well, hang on, if Mr. Ilahi defaults on his loan and that the lender needs to now put it back on for sale, can we very quickly turn this property back into a single let? And therefore, we should therefore value it on a single let basis. So they'll try and value it on a bricks and mortar value of £100,000 or whatever the market value for that street is. Market value, not commercial value. Yeah. Now, why I'm trying to get to a commercial value is because the commercial value is higher than a bricks and mortar value. And as such, I'll have the ability to release equity or capital during a refinance and have a lower loan to value ratio, which could result in a higher mortgage interest rate. So I'll talk to you about that shortly. Now, commercial valuations, you do need to get your head around, because if you don't get it right, you could end up creating a commercial product, but still having a bricks and mortar valuation, which is kind of pointless. And you've done all the hard work for no reason. Now, when I'm creating a HMO, I want to make sure that when the surveyor walks through the door, he's going to turn around and said, okay, I get it. I understand why he wants a commercial valuation. Now, in all my HMOs, when I create a HMO, first thing I do, I put en-suites in every room. Now, that seems quite standard. So when the surveyor walks in, he straight away sees, let's say 6-bed HMO, he sees 6 en-suites or 6 bathrooms. Now, my first argument, if a surveyor tried to value my property on a bricks and mortar value based on that alone, I'll say to him, Mr. Surveyor, tell me which of the property on this street has 6 bathrooms. And he'll go, okay. Point 1 noted. Second thing that I do in all my HMOs, I'll give them like mini kitchenettes as well. So we're a studio model, but still within the HMO regulations. So they've got like a little mini sink. They may have some sockets for toaster, kettle, etc. We don't put cookers in any of the rooms. We may give them like desktop appliances, but not cookers. So when the surveyor walks in, straight away he goes, okay, I can see that they've got en-suites. I see that they've got some kind of facilities to warm up some food. And so I'll say, okay, Mr. Surveyor, tell me which other property on this street has got 6 kitchenettes and 6 en-suites. Okay, point number 2 noted, Mr. Ilahi. Now, if that wasn't enough, the property will also have a full integrated fire alarm system. I do fire alarms, I don't do sprinkler systems. I'm still not sold on the sprinkler systems. However, the one thing that really seals the deal for me is that I kind of strip out the gas from all my properties. Now, that might sound strange. It's strange, I completely agree, but I turn all my properties electric and I have each of the rooms metered separately. So room 1, and the reason why I do that, very simple. It's from a business point of view, is that I've been into far too many HMOs up and down the country. And guys, you may own one of these, and I'm not knocking you for it, but it just doesn't sit well with me. It's a warm day outside. You walk into your HMO straight away, the windows are open and the central heating's on full blast. You're not in control of the finance of your property. I hate to say it, but that's my personal belief. You're not in control of the cash flow of your portfolio because the tenants are in control. They're the ones that are putting the heating on constantly. And as a result, the more they use, the more it's costing you. The more it's costing you, the less cash flow you're making. Very simple economics. Whereas what I've done, I've metered every room separately so that it'll be very rare that you walk in one of my HMOs and you see a TV on standby, because guess what? The tenants are paying for it. So therefore, because they're financially aware that it's costing them, that every time they leave a TV on, every time they leave a heater on, so there's electric heating, there's electric hot water. So in terms of showers and little hot water machines, all the rooms are wired up electrically so that if they leave a TV on, it's costing them. If they leave a heater on, it's costing them. And the only thing that I pay for as a landlord is the communal lighting and the fire alarm system and any communal facilities. So my bill approximately is around, best part of, I'd say, just as a worst case scenario, best part of £100 a month, if less than that. But let's just work on a ballpark figure, £100 a month. And as a result of creating this model, I also can put the council tax banding on each room. The reason why I like that is because then it removes the liability away from me. More importantly, it helps me more when I come to get the commercial valuation. So let's have a recap. So each of my rooms have got their own ensuite. Each of their rooms have got their own little kitchenettes. Each of their rooms have their own electricity meter. Each of the rooms has their own council tax banding. Now let's go back to the surveyor. When he walks into my property and I'll say to him, okay, we're working on this on a commercial valuation. And he goes, on what basis? I said, well, tell me which house on this street has 6 bathrooms? Which house on this street has 6 mini kitchenettes? Which house on this street has 6 council tax banding? There is no argument. It varies, okay, I understand it. We've created a commercial product, therefore we demand a commercial valuation. Now, just give you an example. In Wolverhampton, I converted a property into a 4-bed HMO in the similar style that I've just described, and on the basis of that, it's producing, let's just say it's £100 a week per room, so that's £400 a week as a house, times that by 52, it's producing 20,800. Now, I bought this property on the basis that I think I paid £80,000 for it at that time. It was a 3-bed, 2-reception room house. So standard run of the mill. I converted it so it's got 4 bathrooms, it's got all electric, it's got mini kitchenettes throughout and banded separately. Now, on the basis of it producing 20,800, on a commercial valuation, you can have that property valued dependent on your location between 7 to 10 times the gross income. So the gross income on this 4-bedroom property is 20,800. Now, I had it valued because of it being in Wolverhampton, had it valued at 10 times the income. So times that by 10. Now, that property that I purchased for £80,000, I spent on approximately £20,000 to £30,000 on the refurb. So I've spent a fair amount on the refurb. So it owes me £110,000. However, I had it valued at 10 times the income, the gross income, which meant that now we've had it valued at £208,000. Bear in mind that it only owes me 110. Now, we've got 2 options here. 2 options are that I could just take out on, so if you work on the basis of 110,000, divide that by 208,000, basically it's 53% of the market value now. Whereas previously, some of you may have been geared at 75% loan to value. Now I'm geared at 53% of commercial value. Does that make sense? And as a result of that, I can now decide, do I only take the 110,000 back out that I put in? Or I could, if I wanted to, what did I say? It was 208. So 208,000, I could, if I wanted to, take up to approximately 70%, which is what commercial lenders will lend you on that. And I could actually pull out 146,000 pounds, which means that not only do I get my 110,000, but I also get an additional 35,000 back out, which means that I'm now geared at 70% of the commercial valuation. Now, this all depends on where you are in your property journey. Now, me personally, I only ever take out what I've put in. I like to keep the equity in the property for a rainy day, so that if something goes on, I know that I can refinance and get that money back out at a later date. Bear in mind that commercial valuation, commercial mortgages are generally slightly more expensive than buy-to-let mortgages and standard residential mortgages, because the rates will vary between 5 to 6%. Does that make sense? So going back to factors which affect HMO valuations, they'll look at comparables. Now, if you've set the property up correctly, there is no need to look at comparables, because your property should be like comparing a supermarket to a hospital. They are completely incomparable. So if you set it up correctly, that question should never even be raised. There'll be questions around planning permission use, whether C3 is a standard single dwelling against C4, which is HMO use. And they'll also look at things like property size, the number of bedrooms, the amount of units that you've created. Now, I should say that if you're creating a HMO, you may not want to put en-suites in every room. You may not want to put kitchenettes in every room. You may not want to run it as a fully electric HMO. Completely get that. No, it works extremely well for me, it may not work for you. However, the other way that you can do this is that if you've got a 6-bed HMO and you've got additional space, potentially you can apply for planning permission for additional rooms. And as a result of that, because you've now taken the commercial sense, shall we say, to go off and apply for planning permission, you could argue that because you're now gone in over and above what it would be a standard single dwelling to create additional rooms, you could, with the benefit of planning permission, argue that you could now get a commercial valuation. So anything that's a 7, 8, 9, 10 bed HMO, generally speaking, will get commercial valuation. They'll also look at whether Article 4 is in the area. If you're in an Article 4 area, Article 4 has been a great thing for lots of HMO owners who already own HMOs in the area, because pretty much if you've already got a HMO in the area, the council will, if I wanted to go and create a new HMO in that area, I would then have to go through the hoops of applying for planning permission. And chances are is that if there's Article 4, they will try and restrict it, or they'll try and reject it based on the fact that the reason why they brought Article 4 in is to restrict the amount of HMOs coming up. So basically what they're saying is that they don't really want any more unless you've got a really good reason as to why that HMO should exist in that location. However, if you're an existing HMO owner in an Article 4 area, what it basically means is that because no more HMOs can be created without planning permission, you've now sitting on a mini gold mine. You can go off and get commercial valuation because again, this now becomes a commercial product as opposed to a residential standard product. Valuers will also look at how many other HMOs there are in the area and whether it's quite a dense market or the local HMO density. They'll look at the local facilities and what's surrounding it, so looking at the proximity to local amenities. They'll look at the condition of the property, which they always do. They'll look at the management of it. So you've got lots of things to take into consideration. So the one thing we will talk about is the HMO valuation calculator. And the reason why I say that is certain parts of the country, I've never known it to drop less than 7 times multiplier. So I call it the multiplier. So basically, if you've got a property and if you're in an area such as places like Sunderland, where it's slightly more deprived, they'll use a 7 times multiplier. If you come towards the Midlands, you're looking circa between 8 to 10 times multiplier, again, depending on the product. If you go down south towards London, you're looking between 10 and 12 times multiplier. So these are the things that you have to take into consideration. And it's always worth speaking to a good property broker. And we will talk about finance brokers. There are lots of good mortgage brokers, not doubting that. However, there are some real gems that actually understand the HMO valuations and commercial valuations, and these are the guys that are worth their weight in gold, because these are the guys that are not only going to allow you to buy the property with the bridging finance, but also work with the end in mind so that you can get the commercial valuation to come out on the back end. So there's lots of things that you need to take into consideration when you're setting up a HMO, especially if you want to get your money back out. Especially if you're looking at example that I did, the 4-bed HMO, you want to get your money in with a view of knowing that you're going to get it back out within the 6 to 12 month period without getting hit with all the redemption. Lots of brokers will say, yeah, let's get it bought with someone like Shawbrook on a 2-year fix. What they don't tell you is that when you come to refinance, you can't refinance because you're stuck in a fixed term, and as a result there, if you do want to come out, you're going to get hit with a large penalty, which kind of makes it unviable to do. So you've got to take that into consideration. So I suppose that kind of, we've been on a lot longer than normal, but I'm hoping that I've given lots of golden nuggets there. If you've got any questions about HMO valuations, or you want to get in touch in general, feel free to email us at admin@arshilahi.com. Alternatively, you can connect with me on all social media platforms. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I've got quite an active YouTube channel as well. So feel free to find me by searching at Arshilahi on YouTube, and please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Finally, if you're looking for property investment deals, so some of the HMO deals that we've kind of talked about in this episode, we've got lots of them on the Property Investor app. So it's the UK's first property investment marketplace for property investment deals. So I refer to it as the right move for property investment deals. You don't need to search long and hard for the deals. We've got ready-made deals sitting there waiting for you to have a look at it. All you've got to do is that if you're on the internet, go to www.propertyinvestораpp.co.uk. Alternatively, if you've got a smartphone, all you do, go to your app store, type in Property Investor, and we're right there. It takes you 2 minutes to register, and within the space of a couple of minutes, you will see absolute, I think we've got approximately 200 properties on the app nationwide, and they vary from below market value deals, rent to rent deals, lease option deals, commercial deals, just to name a few. So feel free to go and have a look at that. But on that note, I wish you every success. Hopefully you've enjoyed the session. If you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to do so. Please share it. Please leave us a review as well. That would be phenomenal on wherever you listen to this, whether you're listening to on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever it may be. Please feel free to leave us a review, and I will speak to you all very soon. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.